This 3D model is the scan of a scale model of an X-craft built by one of the volunteers on the Aberlady X-craft project to allow us to compare the wrecks to a complete version. The X-craft were mini submarines designed during World War II to conduct highly secret missions in locations that were not accessible to normal submarines. These craft had a crew of 4, all within a hull of only 15.6 meters in length and 1.7 meters beam, although with the internal fittings the space would have been considerably more restricted. The cigar-shaped pressurized hull was made of thicker steel than the more delicate upperworks, which streamlined the 2 hatch openings and the periscope dome on top of the submarine. The cutwater at the forward end of the upperworks was partially reinforced. The bow contained the forward dive tank, which would be flooded to dive the submarine, and cylinders of compressed air to allow the tanks to be blown and the submarine to resurface. Under the compressed air cylinders were the main battery banks. The next compartment aft was the wet and dry compartment underneath the forward hatch to allow a diver to exit and re-enter the submarine. Aft of this was the control room of the X-craft, with the conning position for steering, periscope dome and trimming position for dive control. Under this were 2 further dive tanks. The control room also contained the aft hatch at its aft end. The aft compartment contained the 6 horsepower Gardner diesel engine, the same as in the Routemaster bus, for surface running and an electric motor for when the submarine was dived. The compartment contained fuel tanks and the aft dive tank. The final section of the X-craft was the cruciform arrangement of the vertical rudder and the horizontal hydroplanes, which allowed it to steer and dive with the propeller between these and the stern of the hull. Control rods to these ran down the right or starboard right of the hull. Protruding out of the hull on the port side was the combined radio aerial and induction tube to bring air to the diesel engine when running on the surface. This could be folded down when running on batteries. Aft of this was the periscope, with the X-craft having both a thin attack periscope and a larger night periscope. The final tube was the compass tube, which was elevated to remove some of the interference of all the hull steel on the compass. Surviving complete X-craft examples are on display at the Submarine Museum in Gosport and at Chattenham Historic Dockyard, with the 1950s updated version on display at the Scottish Submarine Centre in Helensburgh. The 2 X-craft wrecks at Aberlady Bay were XT or training versions of the X-craft, which had some adaptations to them, including moving the compass tubes and converting the attack periscope to a fixed periscope. They were used for weapons trials to test the effects of aerial attacks on submarines in 1946. The wrecks lie in the wide intertidal zone and are accessible at low tide from the nearby natural reserve. They both lie canted on their port sides, with the bows more deeply buried in the soft sand. The western wreck is more complete, although it's lost a lot of the lighter weight upperworks and some of the thicker pressure hull skin. The remains of the upperworks cutwater are still present forward of the forward hatch, which is partially open. Through holes in the pressure hull you can see the compressed air cylinders in the bow. Next to the forward hatch, a reinforced section of upperworks with the forward lifting eye is still in place. The periscope dome with its characteristic eye-like cover for the periscopes is aft of a large rent in the pressure hull, with the observation scuttle visible on the starboard side of it. The internal fittings of the control room were removed prior to the weapons tests, with the remainder lost over the last 80 years. The aft hatch cover has been lost and the sides of the hatch damaged, possibly by an anchor. The tube for the compass survives aft of it. Within the engine compartment, the Gardner engine has been removed, but the electric motor in the gearbox is still in place, visible through a large hole in the hull. The stern has sections of the hydroplanes and the lower part of the rudder still in place, with the control rods having become disconnected. The propeller has also been removed. The 2X craft, like many World War II steel wrecks, have broken down more rapidly over the last decade as the materials they were built from approach the end of their structural integrity. A comparison of the condition of the wreck now with a previous survey in 2004 has shown the loss of a lot of material, particularly from the stern section. One of the reasons behind this work was to preserve the layout of the wrecks before they decayed too much. The main reason, however, was to provide inspiration to volunteers on the project to develop and complete their own research projects, giving them the training in archaeological and historical research techniques and to support them during the difficult winter lockdown.